Hey everyone, Asu here. Over the course of the last 2 days, I put out 2 different guides on how you can go about editing in GPose. This covered mostly about camera angles as well as lighting, and I understand that not a lot of information might have been given in that video to get started. I've also gotten a bunch of DMs on Twitter asking, hey, Asu, I'd like to get started on G-posing. Is there any pro tips and tricks that you could provide that would definitely help in this journey? And before I begin, I'd like to say thank you to all the people that have actually passed on their additional tips and information. This definitely helped in the journey to get into G-posing. Now, without much further ado, what I'm going to be covering in this video is a concept that I've been looking into. This includes light positionals, adjusting the advanced lights in Kinesis, and any additional tips and tricks that might be helpful in rendering out your desired GPose output. One of the things before we get started is ensuring that you go into the settings, go into keybind and into system, and you assign a hotkey for the toggle UI display mode. This part is important because it helps get rid of the additional clutter that comes onto your screen, especially when you start G-posing. A lot of the windows tend to overlap, and you want to make sure that as you look into your G-pose, you're getting rid of any additional noise that might be coming onto your screen. And so this helps get rid of all that additional clutter on the screen. I know that as I'm going to start editing this is going to be pretty messy, so bear with me on this. Another additional thing is, in case you want to know how do you get the advanced version of Kinesis, you need to go into the download plugin, search, hopefully this loads, go into settings, make sure you go into the experimental tab, and you need to highlight the get plugin testing builds. Once done, don't forget to hit save and go back to the plugins. Search for Kinesis, and this should appear on your list. Make sure you get the receive plugin testing version. However, this is not the final version of Kinesis, this is the alpha build version. So this guide at the time of recording is going to be covering the alpha version of this Kinesis. Once you're done with that, there's an additional plugin that you need to get, and that is called FFXIV Window Resizer. Now, what this covers is the ability to set a custom resolution to ensure you get the maximum output for your GPose. Now, this tip was given by Snowfire, so thanks to her for sharing this information. What you need to do when you set this is you need to identify what is the resolution that you're trying to go for. In this case, 4K is the output that I'm looking for, but fair warning, if you're going to be doing this, you need to make sure that your graphics card can actually handle the intense load that comes in from the resolution side. So as much as possible, anything with an RTX 20 series above definitely helps. 30 series up, if you have RTX, this will definitely help in your journey with the GPose and making sure you get that nice little crisp output. Once you've got these two done, we're just going to be getting directly into GPose. One of the questions that got asked is, hey Asu, which is better? Is it the lighting from the GPose that is better, or is the Kinesis one actually much better? And personally, there's no difference in that, and I'll get into that real quick. Let me get my desired GPose. All right, so this is my desired GPose pose that I'm going for. The concept that I would be going for today's video is this. So the idea behind this concept is lighting and positional, just making sure we get that nice little orange hue on the left side, and we're going for a majority of the blue on the right side. So this is the desired output that I'm looking for. I'm going to be trying recreating this in GPose. If you need to look for concept or any ideas, just don't hesitate to jump into Google, put in something like an anime pose, and try to replicate it as much as possible in GPose. This way you get the practice, and practice always definitely helps, especially when you start imposing or adding any additional poses that come in from other content creators. Now, without much further ado, let me go into the GPose real quick. use glamour to take away any additional items that you don't need. Over here I had the weapon out, and I'm getting rid of that. Another question that came in was, hey Asu, which is better in terms of lighting? The default one over here that comes built in with the Final Fantasy, or GPose? Personally, it doesn't matter, because I'm about to show you exactly what's the difference between the two. Now, based on my concept, there's an orange light, which I have already set the preset over here on what are the color schemes behind it. So it's more of an orange hue over here, and majority of it was blue. So we've got now the two different colors over here. And now you're wondering how you can incorporate this to GPose. Luckily, you don't have to do much, because in GPose, it automatically identifies what are the different light settings that you've put over here. And so you can always right click it, go into edit lighting, and here you can play around with the color, and you can set it exactly to the color hue that you needed. I needed more of a little strong orange. Don't worry about the intensity, I'll show you exactly why. And this one over here, I needed it more of a cooler blue. So I'm gonna go with a little darker blue over here. Yeah, this looks about right. And you can right click it, rename it. I'm gonna set this as left light, and this one as right light. This definitely helps avoid confusion the more lights you have. What you want to do is toggle these little eye icons over here, because this helps you when you click on transform editor over here to identify where your light source is. So as you can see over here, this is the blue one, and this is the orange one. You can click here on any of these three boxes, and this gives you free transformation of how you want to move the lights around if you're not confident in moving the sliders around. Now over here, I wanted it to be a little bit here that covers the left side. Yeah, this sounds about right. And over here, the blue light, I want it to be a little bit overwhelming, to the point where it's more of the blue and less of the orange. And now what you do is you play with the intensity over here. The intensity determines how much light will you be feeding onto your character. And if ever you decide to screw up the position of the camera, such as for example like this, and you're not sure how to go back, you can always go to edit camera, and you can press on the well, in Brio's got it too as well. Go to the default camera, click on reset, and there you go. This will bring you back to your original position where you started with. And now we've got the idea behind it. Let's adjust the blue as well. So I'm gonna be lowering down the intensity, gonna give it this nice little cool blue. You can play with the fall off, and the fall off determines exactly how much of a fade that you want with this. I need somewhat of a higher blue, lesser on the orange, so I'm going to be doing that accordingly. I'm going to be lowering down the intensity. Yeah, and this looks about right. So once again, I'm comparing it again. This is the idea that I'm going for, and this is the results. Now this might not look much over here, and that's because of the low lighting. So what we're going to do is we're going to add one additional light. And this one over here, you need to click on the eye icon to identify exactly where it is. I want it a little bit here. I want it to be less intense than the other. So I'm going to be dropping it all the way here, just so it gets rid of the little shadows underneath the eyes. Yeah. And this is definitely exactly how much I wanted. Fall off again to determine how much of a fade that you want the lights to be. And once you've got the position behind it, this is basically the angle that I want. You have the option as well under GPose, or should I say under Brio, where you click on this little icon, click on new free camera, and you click on the little moving guy icon. And this gives you the ability, when you select it, where you can use WSAD to move around and spacebar to go up. This helps you in situations where you need to move the camera around in a particular way without messing with the sliders. And you can still have the options over here, as you can see, to zoom in, zoom out on the clarity of the image. So this gives you free reign over it. Unfortunately, I was not able to find an option over here that allowed you to rotate the camera, but Kinesis did have an option to rotate it, so I prefer that one. But let's go back to the default camera for one. Any changes that you make on the default camera do not carry over to the free movement camera. For example, as you can see over here, I'm going to be positioning it here. I go back to the default camera, I still retain this position. So play around, see which version that you like and which angle that you prefer. Now in this case, I will be looking forward to this one. I'm going to be zooming in a little more. The angle that I'm looking for in particular is this shot. This sounds about right. To freeze your actor, you can either go here and you can pause it and this will freeze your actor, or you can press 1 on your keyboard and it does the exact same thing. So I'm freezing my actor here. Another additional factor to add in is you do have the ability to mess around with the shadows. And for example, if I'm going to be taking with the left light, I'm trying to get a cast shadow, as you can see over here. This gives a nice little natural shadow cast over here, as you can see. So I'm going to be sticking with this because this is the shadow from the arm. I'm going to be doing the same for the right. There we go. So now we've got this nice little shadow. This looks like very soft spotlights. And you can mess around with the additional options, but ideally, these are the two options that you want to be playing around with. In case you're holding any object or you spawn any props, you do have the ability to place them on the user, and that would cast the shadows all depending on the position of the light. Now that I've got the desired angle that I'm looking for, I'm using Reshade, and the filter that I'm using over here is True Realism Base Indoor. So you would need to set a toggle for it in order to turn the effects on and off. And in this case, I've gone ahead and I've set it to F3, and this allows me to toggle it on and off, as you can see. So going back to home, this is where you would be messing around with any of the additional settings that you're looking for. Fair warning, if you do mess around with MXAO, this gives this weird little shadow on the hair, as you can see. It causes these weird little gaps in between the hair, and while it does give like a nice natural shadow, this might be quite a headache to get rid of. You might actually end up going to use something like Photoshop to try and fix that, so we're going to be disabling it here, the MXAO. So this gives this nice little shadow. We've got the look that we want, and now I'm going to be adding additional filters over here. Do not be afraid to experiment with any of the options over here. What I want is a natural sort of depth of field. So the filter I'm using over here is Cinematic DOF. You can always click enable over here, and this gives you the option to select and modify any of the options over here. You can use autofocus. Autofocus tends to do a really good job in getting the angle right. Or you can use mouse-driven autofocus. This gives you the ability to specify what parts in particular you need to focus on. Like for example, I want the face and I want the hands clear. You just need to move the mouse around, see exactly are you getting the angle that you want. And in this case, I can see the hands are clear, the face is clear, and this is the desired angle that I'm looking for. You can also turn it off, and you can completely put your faith in the autofocus, and this will help you get through with it. Now, over here, I want to make sure that, gotta turn this off, go back into the camera. Yeah, and I want to zoom in a little bit more. There we go. One thing to note, every single time you mess around with the camera, you do need to re-enable the autofocus. And the reason behind this is because it saves your last position of where the camera tried to focus on. So if you go back and forth, you would need to, I'll show you an example over here. I turn this off, I go a little further or a little closer. There are times where it doesn't tend to do the autofocus right. And so that's where you need to make sure that you toggle it on and off, and this will fix it for you. Now, part of the original screenshot was to have a black background. Mine is white, unfortunately, for this, so I will be using chroma. Yeah, so chroma key over here. What you need to do is scroll down over here, click on custom, and this gives you the option to mess around with the colors of what kind of background you're looking for. If you want a red background, if you want a slightly higher color, or if you want green, blue. In this case, I want a black background. Don't forget to adjust the alpha sliders over here on how dark you want it. I just want it slightly darker, not exactly too dark. It's somewhere between here. And this is perfect. So now that I've got the desired output that I want, this is where the XIV resizer comes into play. And for the purpose of this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a screenshot, and then I'm going to show you the difference with the final version. That is with the resizer. So what we're going to do is I'm going to pop open this. I've set my F12 key to take a screenshot, and I'll show you the difference later. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the effects toggle. I'm going to pop this open, and I'm going to type W resize set, and 4K resolution is 3840-2160. And so as you can see over here, the window sort of blew up, but you need to wait for the little icon in the top left that shows you that Reshade has picked up the or the difference in the resolution and has adjusted it accordingly. And now that I turn it on, as you can see, this icon is over here. You can start to see that it starts to struggle a little bit. And that's where I'm going to be pressing the home key. So again, the settings kind of sort of restarted. I'm going to be turning off this filter, and I'm going to be hiding it. Now, because my resolution is out of bounds, I can't see the chat box anymore. And this is where the hide toggles come from. Where you press the hide key, it gets rid of all the additional windows and noise. And then I'm going to hit the screenshot key again. Okay. Now I'm going to take a look at my folder here. I'm going to wait until the picture comes out. Okay. All right, so this one, as you can see over here, is the regular resolution. Now, if I were to put the 4K one, you can see that the 4K one has a lot more quality and details into it. It got rid of the additional sort of missing pixels on the corner. You've got this nice little crisp little clarity. And when you do upload it into Twitter, Twitter will automatically recognize that it's a 4K image, and it will give you the option to, hey, in case you want to load this version, you can now open this version and take a look into it. This was also the other shot where I took, and it was the non-4K. So I'm just gonna close this real quick. I'm gonna open home again, and I'm gonna press F12. What I am going to double check on real quick is the cinematic TOF. Since I've messed around with this, I turn it off, turn it on again, make sure to toggle the autofocus. And once I'm done, press F12 again. Okay. And so now this is the version that I just took. So as you can see, this is the results. This is the clarity. We've got this nice little orange light. Going back and I'm comparing it again, the orange and blue. And I'm kind of happy with this because I've got this nice little black background. I've got the little light on the orange and blue. Feel free to mess around with the intensity of the light. You can also change the position of it. And what I'm going to do over here real quick, because this is now back in 4K, I'm going to unhide this. I'm going to press enter and I'm going to type W resize reset. So now it brought me back to the original one. And as you can see, everything sort of reset. I don't have a 4K monitor, but this is me forcing my screenshots into 4K. Turn it off over here. Go back. I'm going to make sure I take out the MXAO. And you do have the option over here where you can mess around with these sliders. And this will give you the idea, as you can see over here, on how close or how would you like to adjust the lights. I think it's fair if I zoom out a little bit. I'm going to turn off cinematic DOF so this doesn't mess with it. Yeah, might have to turn off as well the chroma key. There we go. And this is where I'm going to be adjusting the light as well. You do have the option to go and do this in case you want to mess with the lights, but in the event where you are locked into your GPose, you may not have the option to zoom out because you like the position, you don't want to mess around with it too much. And so you can either slide the positions from here, or you can go ahead and click on these little boxes and move it about. Yep, and that's about it. I hope you enjoyed this little guide. Feel free to let me know if you have any questions. Cheers.